Well, good morning, Mesa Valley people, friends, and family. Today's another Wednesday, and I just wanted to give you a bit of encouragement as well as, honestly, just try and challenge maybe some of your thinking today. I was reading through Genesis chapter 18 and 19 and reviewing the story with Sarah, Abraham, and Lot. And it's interesting how each one of them had their own separate interactions with God, but they still all kind of struggled with some of the same things. Sarah was told she was going to have a child at almost 100 years old, and she laughed. And then God immediately asked, is nothing impossible with God? If I say I'm going to do this, what's to stop me, right? And so she laughed. And then when God told Abraham that he was going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah, Abraham tries to change God's plans. He questions God's plans. He says, well, what if there's 50 people there, or 40 or 30? He goes all the way down to 10 righteous people, and every single time Abraham asks this question, God says, for the sake of 10, I want to destroy it. And what's really interesting is I feel like that a lot of times people try to use that passage to say, hey, look, we can change God's mind. But God knew there was only 3 people that were going to be in Sodom that had some sort of relationship with God, or at Lot, and 4 people, Lot and his wife and 2 daughters. So there wasn't even 10. So one could argue that Abraham wasn't changing God's mind at all. He was questioning things, and maybe he felt like, God, how can you be a just God if there's 50 people there, or 30 or 40 or 30? And how can you be a just God if you're going to kill the just with the unjust? And so, but God didn't change his mind. He was going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah, and he still did. It was just Abraham had to get to the point where he's like, okay, you're a just God. That's, you do what's right. I'll just have to be okay with it. Because in the end, there was only 4, not even 10. So I don't believe Abraham changed God's mind at all. If anything, God just had a dialogue with Abraham to help Abraham trust that he's just. I digress. So, and then he also had a conversation with Lot, right? Well, his messengers did. And his messengers, as they grabbed the family by their hands and ushered them out of the city, because they weren't going to go willingly, right? So they took Lot and his 2 daughters and his wife and by the hand and pulled them out of the city. And then they said, go to the mountains and you will be safe. And then Lot argues with him, saying, no. I'm not going to be able to live in the mountains. Let me go to this other small city, and let me stay there. And so the messengers, fine, whatever, go to this other city, but hurry, because we can't destroy Sodom and Gomorrah until you're safe, until you're over there. And then you read later on in chapter 19 where Lot is in the mountains because he's in a cave in the mountains because he wasn't safe in that small city. So it's almost as if he would have just followed the message that God gave him to go to the mountains. If he would have just done that in the beginning, he would have been fine. He wouldn't have had this diversion of going to the small city. He tried to interject his own plan and argue with God. You see, sometimes we struggle with disbelief if God is instructing us or encouraging us or directing us to do something, whether it's through the Word or through His Spirit's direction. Sometimes we just don't believe that God's going to do what He says He's going to do. And sometimes we just don't trust that God is going to be just, or the action that He's asking us to do is going to be in our best interest. So just like Abraham or Lot, he tells us to do something and we're like, oh, no. My way's better. Let me do this instead. And I do believe God says, okay, try it your way. You'll come back to me and you'll find out that my way was better. So maybe today, maybe you're struggling with these things. Do you believe that God can accomplish anything? Or do you struggle like Sarah? Do you believe that His way is just, even if it doesn't make sense to you? Or do you struggle like Abraham did? Or do you believe that maybe His way isn't what's best? Just like Lot. Instead, we need to trust Him and submit to Him. You see, I think today we struggle a lot as a family of God, as individuals, with humble submission to God and his calling. What's very interesting in all of these situations, there was a relationship with God that they each had. Abraham had such a close relationship with God that from afar off, when they came, God and these other angels, these other visitors came, Abraham recognized them from far off, ran to them and met them. So there was a definite relationship, a close relationship, close enough that he could recognize God from a distance. So my first question, my first challenge, I guess, for you is if you're struggling in any of these areas of disbelief or distrust, how is your relationship with God? Are you spending time with him? Is it just a task that you do? I read my Bible for 5 minutes, I prayed, I asked God to give me certain things, and then I go on about my day. That's not a relationship. That's a dictation. That's an email to God. That's all that is. God, I read. Thank you for teaching me, and here's my requests. That's not a relationship. So how's your relationship with God? Are you spending time with him? You see, if you struggle with any of these, you have to spend time with God. And through that time, God will develop within you a heart of trusting. A trusting heart, a trusting nature, a believing nature, one that doesn't try to change God's plans, but submits to God's plans. So again, if you struggled today or this week with something that God is calling you to do, I encourage you to spend time today, this week, to spend time with him, remembering and reminding yourself of who God is, who you are, and that his way is always best, and submit to him. I love you guys. God bless.